This is the demo cast by Jensen on color and Gamernissem on play-by-play of Edward Gaming versus VG Gaming Week 10 Game 2 of the LPL Summer Split 2019.
All right, and we're going to be jumping right into picks and bans EDG versus VG coming into this. We already see that first ban phase coming through. On EDG side, we have the Yumi, Grangus, and Ezreal being banned out. And on VG, the Olaf, Irelia, and the Rumble. And I think it's a little bit indicative of what we might see, or rather the kind of play styles that we've seen coming in from EDG and VG very often through the weeks of the LPL regular season. So a number of these bans make quite a bit of sense. But that first pick, Tom Kench coming in from EDG and decides to respond.
Lots of poke champions being banned out for the side of Avid Gaming. This is something that they want to do. Now, poke champions and they engage in the form of Gragas. So drafting is usually like cooking a meal. It's like going to the supermarket and picking up the ingredients to cook a recipe for your big dinner party at night. Some ingredients go well with some, and some ingredients don't go so well with others. But in League of Legends, this is two teams facing off one another. So it's two groups of chefs mixing the ingredients in the same pot. So you always need to think of what possible ingredients your opponents might have that might spoil yours.
Right, and it's always being mindful and understanding that makes a big difference and goes a long way. EDG, they see what VG add to the pot, a little bit of engage, a little bit of that spice, so they decide to go in with a little bit of their own. Bringing in the Varus works very well, the tandem, the safety of the Tom Kench in the bottom lane, and the Jarvan, giving them a little bit of engage of their own. So they say, we're not afraid of some spice, we're going to go all into this spot.
The spiciness definitely adds to the flavor profile of what EDG has, and if EDG has a team flavor, it is always playing towards the top side of the map. Varus Tom Kench not exactly the safest lane with the Varus being an immobility carry, but a Tom Kench with the Devour usually can combat for that. So two ingredients that synergize well together, and VG Gaming are kind of playing off that you want to go for Varus Tom Kench. What is great with Tom Kench, I know, is Xayah and Rakan. If you go for Tom Kench, you don't have the all-in potential to burst on the Rakan, and they feel that they can get these two scaling champions that gives them a very strong control of the team fights in the later stages of the game, and a pretty decent laning phase as well for VG Gaming.
So, and let's take a look into our second ban phase coming in as well. EDG side going to be banning out the Aatrox and the Vladimir, removing a lot of those high damage profile threats. And on the side of VG Gaming, we see the LeBlanc and the Akali now being removed from their end and picking up the Talia as their next pick.
So consistently, EDG is targeting out towards the top-centric strategy, where they want to get rid of these strong blind pick champions that they don't want to be facing up against. Now, Vladimir and Aatrox are champions that we have seen being blind picked by top laners. They can be rather safe, they're rather self-reliant in the lane itself, so you don't have to do all too much to kind of relieve pressure. Now, Vladimir, he can always pull to escape away from things, and they go for the Jace. So the bans and the picks, they kind of make sense so far from what EDG is trying to do. Whereas with VG Gaming, Talia, we've seen that play quite a fair bit in the LPL. Rookie on IG was a person who played that to a fair bit of success in the middle portion of the season. This champion, she wants to just push the wave, roam to the side lanes and make something happen. She serves as a second jungler of sorts. So if you have side lanes that require a lot of attention or draw a lot of resources, Talia is a champion that's very effective at doing that. And this is where the cavalcade of flavors start to come together. A folk composition coming through from EDG, Zoe, Jace, Varus, lots of long range. They dropped a strong engage, but that was kind of a bluff. They faked this out and they went into a kind of like a plot twist in the anime of sorts. Right? You thought we were going for engage, but nope, we're going for poke instead.
Right, you add some spice, but it turns out that's only a precursor to the real flavors of this pot. And as you were mentioning a little bit, EDG working in that Jace really goes towards the strategy that you want to employ. And I think you mentioned a little bit earlier that oftentimes is to play around the top side and have Tete move around that area of the map.
Now for VG Gaming, let's talk a little bit about the flavors that they have here. This is a little bit more crisp. This is the deep fried version of League of Legends that we're looking at. Lots of engage coming through with the Rakan, the Ornn, and follow up with Sylas and Talia as well. I mentioned about the Atelia's ability to function as a second jungler. Jace lanes are very resource intensive lanes, be it whether you're playing as the Jace or you're playing against the Jace. And this Talia is going to be all this oil, this deep frying mechanism that's going to be bringing the giant meatball of Ornn into the face of Jace, and that is how they will have enough engage to deal with the to deal with the poke that Edward Gaming has. So far from the team compositions, I prefer what VG Gaming has. This is a poke composition, they tried to fake us out with it, but I do feel that the amount of engage that VG Gaming has is sufficient for them. And on top of that, they have the power duo of Zyrakan in the bottom lane. They went for the Varus time catch early for Everett Gaming. I feel that it didn't really pay off. They're not really getting the type of premier top laners that can really carry a game anymore. But Jace used to fulfill the category, but his carry stats in recent times have not been all the best. So we have to see how both of these two teams play around that. Top lane is definitely going to be the crux as with any matchup that features a Jace. Edward Gaming play from mid into the top lane, ignore the bottom lane. Whereas for Vici Gaming, they have a whole bunch of other options. All they're looking for is to break the siege on the top side of the map with a solid rotation from either the Talia or a gank from the Silas.
Right, here we go. As we move into the Rift, EDG versus VG Gaming. And EDG, they need a few more wins to make their way into playoffs, but for VG, it's a matter of not placing in the bottom ranks after the extensive weeks we've seen in the LPL. Pretty intensive match coming in, but EDG already one match up, so I have to see if they can keep up this momentum or if there's something else that VG Gaming have in store for us. We'll take a look. Let's take a quick stock check over the overall game state. Jensen, I think you mentioned that EDG, they have quite a decent amount of pressure coming in from the top side. But on VG side, where do you think that this matchup is going to head towards? Do you think that it's going to be up to the Ornn to try and sustain against the Jace up in the top lane, or do you think it's going to go down to that power duo in the bot lane?
So this is a situation. I have to take a step back to look at it from the macro picture first. For VG Gaming, you can make a very strong argument that they outskill in this game. Although the opponent does have the Zoe and they have a range advantage, so it's the amount of engage that they have will give them the superior setup in the later stages of the game. So they have two options here. Either they can choose to one, race the opponents on the other side of the map, like what you mentioned, race the opponents with power duo of the Zyrakan, or they could match them, repeatedly stop the Jace from making progress on the top side of the map. And whether which option they do get to choose would depend on how the Talia versus Zoe matchup goes. And as we talk about this matchup, action in the mid lane.
Oh, yeah. Taking a look, nice leg and try to get the knockout onto Jay right away, and decent damage coming through. First blood over to the Zoe. Just 2 minutes into the game, had no way of knowing that was going to happen. Lacking a little bit of the early vision due to the bit of a scuffle we saw in the early game.
And I have to say, that was kind of 900 IQ potting from Jarvan as well. Level 2 Jarvan ganks are one of the scariest things to face in the game as a mid laner. And Jarvan, he started on the red buff, walked one big round and came from the top side to gank on Jay. Didn't see that coming, and they scored it. As a mid laner, when you're up against a Jarvan, a Sinzao, a Lee Sin, these champions have access to very strong level 2 ganks. You always have to be wary of the possibility that they just do one buff, especially the red buff, into gank in the mid lane.
Yeah, so it's a real threat that we saw ended up happening in this game. So we'll have to see how VG bounce back from that. Silas could potentially look to try and use this time to get a little bit more pressure around the Skull Crabs. Looks like he's going to make his way down bot side. They might be able to find an engage here, but nice vision coming in from the EDG bot side will spot out the Silas, and this gives them the time they need to back away, but making a rotation back mid lane once again. Jay not in the best position, has both his summoners up, but we'll have to see how effective this is going to be against ZTS Jarvan.
Call him a musician from the romantic era because he was attempting a rondo over there. But Jay, this time he knows his junglers on the bottom side of the map. That is the side of the map that they're going to choose to play towards, so he can easily fall towards the bot side river, and that will make him less vulnerable towards that. Oh, towards that gank. Barely gets the cancel on Scout's recall.
Very close there, and this just means that Jarvan has to go back to its playing for that mid lane. Salah's around here as well. Both sides just trading scuttle crabs right now. We'll have to see if there's any other kind of developments coming through. Bot lane already making that first recall. The Varus ports back into lane, just looking to try and catch back up. And this is something that we've often kind of discussed when we talk about running teleport on AD carries. You oftentimes don't have the luxury of trying to use it to find a big macro play. It's more often used to just get the reset and jump back into your lane so that you can optimize your farming, optimize the time that you have in lane and grabbing EXP. Do you think this kind of affects them in any way, like having to expend this teleport early on, or is this just something that's expected, so not too much of an issue?
So this is something that works in Cube's favor because when you're playing against a poke matchup, or rather when you're playing as a Jace or any poke matchup in general, you want to stop your opponent from going back to base. So but then when you run out of resources in terms of health or mana, you can then use this opportunity to call for a dive or make progress on getting plates. But if you yourself recall and allow him the opportunity to recall as well, then both of you are going to come back to lane at 100 HP, and you need to spend another 2 minutes slowly whittling him down over the next 4 waves.
All right, and a quick look over what's happening mid lane. Vici sending the bot lane duo over to the mid side, perhaps trying to return the favor onto Scout. They weren't exactly able to do so, but still going to pressure out the Zoe a little bit. Nice vision coming in from Gino up in the top side, making his way over, trying to get some vision, get some information on where the silence could be. And this is going to make things a little bit more difficult for the jungler of VG Gaming. It's going to be difficult for him to try and make moves if the enemy team knows where it's going to be. The Orange so far, surprisingly, doing pretty well against the Jace. I know you mentioned already that Jace still isn't that hyper bully that he used to be in lane, but I was still expecting a much more favorite Jace matchup.
Now, Ornn is one of my favorite champions to play, and I think that for a very long time people have felt that Ornn was a good answer to Jace, but actually some action in the bottom lane here as they trade back and forth. Nothing happens there. Back
Right,
to
but
Ornn versus Jace. Back to Ornn versus Jace. Now, Ornn was always a champion where they felt that the action just never stops because EDG is just doing the dragon now. But On always has the potential to 100 to 0 the Jace if the Jace is not careful in the lane. But Jace being a ranged champion, if he gets the correct lane setup, he gets the right amount of jungle pressure, he will be able to bully out the Ornn despite all the nerfs. But the big thing here is that Jetya has not been giving the Jace the attention and the enforcement that he needs to really bully out this Ornn. If the Ornn always feels the pressure, there might be a Jarvan sitting here, getting ready to dive me, he doesn't have the agency, he doesn't have the capability to simply go in and trade with the Jace. But in these cases where he keeps seeing the Jarvan in the mid lane, seeing Jarvan towards the other side of the map, then he has all this ability to really respond to what Jace wants to do against him in lane.
Right, so showing himself in the mid lane, getting the pressure onto Jay on this Talia has kind of been a double-edged sword coming in for Tete, because this means that the Ornn gets a lot more agency in lane. And we do see EDG right now looking to try and collapse onto Vici, who have made the move into their jungle. Nicely
Bubble
coming through the bot lane from both sides coming in right now. Decent damage coming onto the Rakan. Nice grab out from the Varus, the flash away coming in from the sides by a follow-up coming in from Scout right into the Dragon Pit. Now they pick up the first kill of the fight. Will they be able to find a second? Nice flash coming in from the Xayah to dodge away from the tongue. Scout moving in, looking for some damage. Flashing away. It's going to be the Xayah. Staying healthy there. And both Summers expanded on this Zoe into the mid lane. Now taking a look up to the top side. The fight doesn't end just yet. Ignite coming through, taking down on the Geo. They're looking for this kill. Nice. Bell's Breath, but won't be able to find it. Both flashes burned simultaneously, dodging away from the damage. Ornn almost gets the kill of the Jace.
Just like we talked about Ornn versus Jace, if Jace has the enforcement, if Ornn has to be constantly worried about there being a jungler, being a mid laner, dare to punish him if he dares to go for it. But the moment he sees there's a fight on the other side of the map, he can go in for that all-in onto the Jace. But whereas, let's talk about the play on the red buff. VG Gaming, I feel that they misidentified that action in the mid lane.
Yep, looks like it's just going to be the collapse coming in onto Scout. Scout doesn't have anywhere left to run. Seismic push won't be able to connect. The happy feet coming in from the Zoe. Won't even be able to survive this. And now back under his turret. He won't be able to live through all that. But oh my goodness, what a play coming in from Scout.
And never mind all the stuff that we're talking about, what's happening in the mid lane, because VG Gaming, they are striking back. Some small mistakes are in the mid and jungle early, but getting this Q on the Zoe, I feel, is huge. It will enable the Talia a lot more breathing space in the lane, and this will enable the Talia to really make those rotations to help VG Gaming really snuff out the offense of Edward Gaming.
Right, being able to respond quite well into this, but VG Gaming still faces their problem moving into the mid game. They too tend to make some mistakes that removes the agency they've developed throughout the early game. So if they're able to fix that issue coming into this one, could be a very real possibility considering the composition that they're running with, a number of hyper carries they could perhaps look to try and take this game away. Otherwise, right now for EDG, they've gained a little bit of early pressure, but they're looking to try and capitalize a bit more on it. Let's take a look back into this mid catch.
Well, this was just well played by Jay. They come in from two directions using the Weevil's wall to get a flank position onto the scout, and the Zoe's out of mana, and as a consequence of that, out of options as well. Tries to juke everything, but in the end is not able to juke all the spells and falls to the Talia.
Nice catch coming in over onto the mid lane. Jay almost gets taken down. No, Scout does find that kill in the end. Double Cataclysm coming through. Now the Rakan joining into the fight over by the mid lane. Jay's going to be making his way down into the fight as well, but won't be able to join in time. And Vici trade 1-for-1, both mid laners going down there.
1-for-1 the mid lane. Both teams starting to reprioritize on who has the ability to control the central portion of the map, as both teams feel that it will be a rather crucial part of determining who decides what the next play is going to be, especially the Rift Herald spawning now at 10 minutes. Perhaps both teams are looking for a pick on the opener mid laner to transition into a Rift Herald for themselves.
I mean, I think I kind of want to talk a little bit about what's been happening to the mid lane as well, because that previous fight where we saw the catch coming in with the Talia, with the Silence of Weaver's Wall being used. I mean, how could that have been possibly avoided? Because it seemed like they were lacking vision. It also seemed like the jungler had recalled at that point already. Did Tietie need to be in his lane at that moment, or was it a lack of vision from Scout that ultimately contributed to that? But we'll have to take a quick look over to the mid lane because it looks like to collapse onto the Talia again, and Zoe just going to come into the damage. Scout with a quick kill, 3-man collapse onto the mid side. Nice knockup coming in from the On, already being able to find the knockup onto the Jace, being able to find the damage coming in as well, and Silas with a quick kill up top.
This is what we established in the early game. Once again, Orange versus Jace, we keep talking about this matchup, but every time you can pull another friend, when you catch them without the Jarvan, without the Zoe being able to protect the Jace in the top lane, he's not able to get the slowly kind of poke and choke type of playstyle that he really wants to find out. No, this is he's being a bad villain at this point of time. When you play Jace lanes, you really need to be the evil mastermind. They're swinging with the giant pendulum axe over the damsel in distress, and the role of the rest of your team is to prevent the protagonist from saving the damsel in distress, which is the Ornn. But in this case, the Ornn is no damsel in distress. This guy is jacked. They thought he had a damsel in distress, but this is a champion bodybuilder that he's locking down under the axe. And not only that, his friends are all coming as well.
We're taking a look to see what's happening here as Vici perhaps want to try and find a 4-man collapse up into this top lane. Jace, we've seen this one before, Jensen. I think they're going to look for a kill here. Jumping in, nice grand entrance and seismic shove coming through as well. Jay taking a lot of damage to that turret right now. Might be able to trade back 1-for-1, and that's perhaps the best trade they could possibly have hoped for. Gino at least take somebody down with him.
They're going to be racing on opposite sides of the map, but I do feel that this is going to end up in EDG's favor. This is solo plates going over to Varus. Oh, Mako, you had to ruin it, as I mentioned, the solo plates. But they're going to have the Rift Herald available for themselves, so this means that the EDG, Edward Gaming, will be able to take 2 turrets for and get a much better gold distribution.
Would you look at that? The kill coming in over onto the bot side as well. Q looking to try and survive through this, but probably won't be able to. Actually gets the dash to safety right away from the duel of EDG and survives through all of that. But meanwhile, Rift Herald still into the mid lane, chunks the turret down mid side, almost a half, and they pick up bot lane as well. Just overall great trade coming in for EDG.
So this is how the turret plating mechanics work. If you have multiple people taking plates, the turret gets so much magic resistance and armor that it becomes so slow to take the turret. VG Gaming's initial rotation put them 4 men on the top side of the map, which meant that the turret plating got 4 stacks of the passive the moment they took the first plate, and it doesn't disappear for a long time because you don't have the ability to reset it unless you wait one entire wave. So they put themselves in a race situation where they got 4 stacks of those resistances on the turret. And Edward Gaming, not only do they have the Rift Herald, not only do they have 2 and 2 on each side of the map, which allows them to take the turret so much more quickly, and now they find themselves in a very comfortable 3,000 gold lead over VG Gaming.
Yeah, that 3k gold difference really starting to show through, especially over into that mid lane. Completed item on the Zoe, and now looking for a second component as well. Might be able to find it pretty soon, considering Talia now in a pretty bad position, 1-4. We've we saw how earlier on a long pressure coming in from EDG meant that Jay in this mid lane was pressured out, losing a little bit of CS, losing his life a couple of times, but overall not too bad. But the recent chain of events has really set behind the VG mid laner.
But things are definitely not doomed for Vici just yet. They definitely do have the skill in this game. They have lots of strong engaged options against what is a poor composition from Edward Gaming. Oh, trying to find some picks here. Edward Gaming, on the other hand, they're trying to play a pick in this engage,
Oh my!
and they find the pick. So this is what they
Scout
want to
coming
do.
in.
This is what they want to do. Edward Gaming, play on two lanes, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, um, disorientate the opponents, hit them where they're weak.
This is what it's always about. You know, you come in, you're looking to play a good game of League of Legends, and then guess what? You get burst off halfway across your screen, not like across your entire screen. You have to move your cursor to see the Power Star coming in, and wow, just overall incredible damage from Scout. And we are facing, or rather, Vici is facing such an incredible menace right now. I would be a little bit afraid if I were in that position.
Another thing that's going for Vici Gaming, that we talk about, is the engage.
Oh, here we
Blowing
have
the on
it.
hard.
Nice Cataclysm onto two coming in from the Vici side, and over on the other end, Vici does get a teleport on the back line. Nice moves from the Orin to be able to find his collapse reverse wall coming in. The Cataclysm from the Javan looking to play the Martyr, try and save his mid laner. Jay's still down to the bot side, won't be able to make his way up top lane to join his team in the fight, and Vici, they'll be happy with just the 2 kills.
But VG Gaming, they blow all the engage. Yes, it gives them a win in the sense of they defend the top lane play. But Gino for EDG, he's making progress on the other side of the map. And this is what EDG really wants to do. Just play on 3 lanes, play on multiple lanes, force manpower advantages and useless manpower advantages to find picks onto VG Gaming.
Yeah, and EDG trading pretty well here. Dragon coming up pretty soon as well. Already stacking the Ocean Drake and the Cloud Drake. If they find this Inferno, you're going to have a pretty nice stack. Let's take a look back into this replay, Jensen.
This was a 5v4. And they go in, they have enough crowd control. They lock up 1, they lock up 2. There's 2 quick kills on the side of VG Gaming. Without the Varus, without the Tomkench, they don't have the big disengage capabilities to really run away from VG Gaming. But still, Jarvan and Zoe, they have enough mobility to escape away.
I mean, what kind of ended up happening there? Because it seems like when you draft a Tom Kench into the composition, you're expecting something like what Vici just happened to ultimately happen, and you're trying to save the Varus and try and keep the Varus alive. Was this kind of like a miscommunication or like mispositioning coming in from EVG that ultimately led the Varus being caught out by the Orin and the Rakan, or was this just a very strong engage from Vici that caught EDG entirely off guard?
I have to say it's a little bit of a mix of both, to be honest. That was not an engage that created the most out of it. Definitely Mako could have positioned a little bit better, but perhaps I have to say that the ward was a lot of in the ward in the lane bush was very good forethought from VG Gaming to try to create and identify such a teleport play.
Alright, EDG and Vici just looking both posture around the river right now. Nice flag and drag from the Java to get away from the stolen Varus ultimate. Looking to see if EDG might have any plans in store for us to make a counter engage. Since they're
This
just
is
waiting
good for
for
VG
his
Gaming.
cooldowns to come back up.
This is good for VG Gaming. 5-on-5 fights in the mid lane. This is where EDG are not as effective because this is where they might end up funneling into a big 5-on-5 engage where the Ornn can get multiple man knockups and the Rakan can chum up multiple people and for VG Gaming to take a winning fight. This is what Edward Gaming wants to avoid, and VG Gaming do give them the breathing respite and hand over and cede over the Inferno trick to Edward Gaming.
So EDG maintaining pressure around these neutral objectives. In fact, around the objectives in general. It looks like Vici, they have been able to find a little bit, but it seems like EDG are playing a more give flesh, take bone kind of strategy where you give Vici a little bit, but you take so much more in exchange. And overall, looking pretty well for this blue team. Despite the kills being even right now, you can see a clear difference in strengths and in the overall individual power spiking on the side of EDG.
This is definitely where they're strongest. Level 11 Jace where you got 6 ranks onto the queue, level 12 Zoe. In fact, it's at level 9 when you get 5 points into your Q ability as well. This is where the poke composition is really at its strongest. And from here, this is where VG Gaming really need to weather the storm that will be EDG and the sheer amount of poke damage that they will have. But they do have a tank available, and they're trying to find a pick on the Genu.
Oh, just gonna avoid using the second charge of the ultimate there. Look at just take this bot lane turret down, and it does seem they'll be able to find it quite easily. Not much of a rotation coming in on this side of EDG. Instead, they're gonna be looking to try and make a move over into the mid side, trying to find the catch onto the Xayah. Nice feather storm, just gonna be able to dodge away from the Sleepy Trouble bubble. And EDG side, they lose this bot turret. We'll have to see how they want to try and equalize things.
And this is how EDG want to play. The execution of that could definitely have been slightly better in terms of the Tahm Kench ultimate positioning, but this is the general idea. You see VG Gaming show multiple members towards one side of the map, immediately collapse on where they are weak in manpower. You're constantly looking for manpower advantages, and this is the key concept of how they want to play when they're looking to engage on VG Gaming. Avoid 5-on-5 fights, look for the 3-on-1s. It's like the schoolyard bullies going on to the 1-1 kid. You don't pick on him in the canteen where there's going to be lots of teachers and where he's all his friends over there. If you want to get the popular kids' lunch money, you gotta get him in the alleyways.
That sounds oddly graphic, Jensen, but still, it does look like EDG have that in mind right now.
Oh, don't
Looking to
let
try and make
Zoe
a couple
fool you.
attempts.
Don't let Zoe's innocent picture fool you. You saw the new Star Gunners trailer. She is the biggest, baddest bully of them all. She's gonna huff and puff and blow your house down.
She's part of the Mean Girls. That sounds like a Netflix adaptation.
Yeah.
Sounds like something you could pitch over to Netflix. Say, you know what? I think this could go at least 3 seasons. We'll have to see how EDG wants to go around that. We are just about 21 minutes in the game, and that means Baron is spawning up. No Mountain Trade this game, so not going to be as quick to rush. But is there any? I feel like EDG might still have the slight edge when it comes to trying picking up this Baron.
I mean, it definitely has to see what Zoe has written in her burn book, but at the moment, the focus is very largely towards the bottom side of the map. They don't really have a true tank. They don't want to be tanking up the Baron and going for the neutral objective where VG Gaming can find a 5-on-5 fight. So they want to play away from the Baron and try to use the Jace as a win condition. But Jace's progress in the game has not really been all that much in terms of getting soul in priority or really putting out the Ornn. He's so far able to push up the lane, but I do feel that VG Gaming, once they get a feel of what Everett Gaming is trying to do, will be able to find a good response to what's happening on the map.
All right, and so we're just looking to see what happens first. Does Vici find a footing in this game, or if EDG are going to be able to catch them off guard and really just press the advantage they've established in the early game? Varus now just about 2 M's completed, perhaps looking for a Rage Blade as well. I mean, early on we did see a Fairy Charm coming in from the Varus just to sustain through the early phases, and I had believed that that might be going towards a tier, but it obviously looks like that isn't going to be the case. Something to mention as well, earlier on, we saw Talia blow her flash after a very narrow escape away from EDG, away from TT, and scout up their top side, so might make use of this window to try and get the collapse onto Talia.
Our gaming grouping 4-5 and 5. Not really liking this from them. This is not really Dara style of play. They're so much more suited when they get to play these 1-3-1 type of team compositions. I felt that they had the ability to create a tempo lead, but Ornn's ability, his passive to simply buy and forge items while it's outside of the base, allows him to skip on the reset. So whatever tempo lead the Jays are created by pushing the additional wave in, the fact that Ornn does not have to reset allows him to simply cheat on that loss of tempo, pick up the wave from the bottom side of the map, and group with the rest of the team in the mid lane. So whatever manpower advantage that EDG thought that they might have created for themselves is negated.
Right, and a very deep level, a very interesting mechanic from the Ornn, as you mentioned, and now being able to join in with the rest of the team quite effectively has prevented a lot of this engage, and EDG now not really able to find their skill shots, won't be able to poke down VG, and that was really the greatest threat that EDG had in store, right? They were a composition that likely would have enough poke to perhaps take VG to a point where they would have to back off from the fight, but without those spells connecting, VG really doesn't have much to worry about.
Now, once again, here's my criticism of EDG's play because they convert so fast into the mid lane, where realizing that the opponent has an Ornn who can skip on those resets, they end up letting the top lane wave push in all the way for them, which allowed VG Gaming to continue to maintain some semblance of vision control of the Baron. If they continued to play off two lanes, so they rotated adjacent to the mid lane, send Zoe into the top lane, and constantly have the Zoe push the wave in with the Joffrey hovering for her, they should be able to maintain this choke over the Baron and try to force a mistake from VG Gaming. Not really the most tactically um, not really the most tactically astute game from VG Gaming so far, but I guess that's what happens when the Zoe takes one too many Klondike bars.
Yeah, it is gonna be a difficult situation for VG. You know, it is difficult to play around a 5-2 Zoe that can pop you from across the screen, and that's been the issue that Selfin has had to face coming in so far. If they're gonna want to try and get the turnaround on this, they really have to be able to find a strong find. By day, I mean VG Gaming, and we've seen they have been able to find them every once in a while. This looks like it might just perhaps be another one coming in. Missing out on the ultimate from the on, decent damage coming through from the side of EDG. They're looking to try and take down the Rakan right away. Southwind taking down to the Ignite. Now jumping forward, it's going to be the Java. He tries to join in. Will be a little bit late and a little bit too close to VG's inner turret to go in and really try and force a team fight there. Instead, EG going to be happy with just forcing the Rakan away and starting out the Baron right away.
They don't have the Ornn ultimate anymore, but the Rakan ultimate is still available for VG Gaming. So this is going to be their pattern of play. Repeatedly fish for engages with the Ornn ultimate, and even if that misses, they still have the Rakan ultimate they can use to threaten the engage onto the Baron. They do spot out EDG starting up. Here comes the Weevil's Wall. Scout trying to get the flank for a cheeky pick.
Almost able to get the lockdown onto the Jarvan. Will just stop them from continuing onto this Baron. They weren't able to find a kill earlier on, so it's still a 5v5. A number of the critical ultimates down from the previous skirmish, but should come back up relatively soon, and EDG not willing to take the risk of trying to start the Baron, especially without the Mountain Drakes. Just going to be working off the numerous oceans that they have, the double oceans, giving them a little bit more sustain so they can easily siege up what Vici cannot defend on.
The Ocean Drake's definitely helping out Edward Gaming because they can keep taking damage from the Baron Nashor, pulling off it and letting the Ocean Drake sustain them up. But we see Tietze, he's looking for the fight, he's in the flank position. But the Ornn ultimate is back up, he's forging an item. Oh, the Zoe Paddlestar just misses him. Ornn ultimate available once again. VG Gaming will try to use this to find a fight.
You know, at this point, we're looking at a full-fledged movement in terms of dance. Vici and EDG both just giving and pulling a little bit at every opportunity. Neither side really looking to try and hard commit here. Now Vici's turn to move into the barrier pit, clear out this vision they have that EDG has established around it, and EDG feels a little bit like they're back to the starting point.
I wouldn't exactly say back to the starting point. They're making progress in all of this because they are able to access both portions of the jungler because VG Gaming, they have to stay as the 5-man unit in the mid lane as they move up and down. So Edward Gaming, in all this dancing, they're able to pick up multiple jungle camps and they're able to pull the goal lead slightly ahead. So they were 3,000 ahead, now they're 4,000 ahead. They just have to repeat this another four times, right? They just need to replay this play another 4 times, and I think in about let me count that entire series of plays took about 5 waves, 2.5 minutes. That's gonna take you another 10 minutes.
Right. I mean,
to reach the 10,000.
Kind of goes back to the issue that you were saying earlier. Though Vici Gaming have generally what feels like a pretty decent scaling composition as well. So I'm not sure if EDG really want to try and risk going to that point because it becomes much closer than it perhaps has to be.
And VG Gaming, they definitely do have enough wave clear to weather the storm. They have the Zaya, they have the Tilia, engage into ice.
Let's see what we have in store coming in here. Zeta gets chunked out a decent amount here. Cataclysm going to be used as well, but doesn't look like they're going to be able to find much more. Just taking the flash away from the silence. Weave as well going to cut off members of EDG. Does Rakan try and move in here? Selfwin, he's been posturing for this. He's looking for that big engage.
VG Gaming, this is showing why they aren't really one of the best teams in the LPL. Because they have all these good tools. Funnel the opponents into a good choke and coordinate together on ulti, and that's the fight you're looking for. There's the big wombo combo. Set everything up, lots of prop on the screen, Candy Crush happens. But it's not exactly the best coordinated. They're breaking like this yellow streak between the purple, and now here comes Zone Ultimate once again, matched by the Varus Ultimate. But
Engage
Rakan
coming in, Mako
commits.
will be to save his ADC. The Varus is in the back line. Nice damage coming in onto the Varus. Ignite taken down as well, but Rakan gets taken down first. Southwind already knocked down this fight, uses his full engage, but won't be able to do much more. Moving forward, Mako finds an opportunity to try and jump back into this. Scout looking to just do damage where he can. At this point, iBoy already too low to do much more. Nice movement coming in. Damage from the Jace. He almost gets killed by the Xayah, but joining in now, Silas as well as Talia, being able to turn things around. And the full 5v5, Vici Gaming are the ones to come up ahead.
My goodness, that was such a disaster from Edward Gaming. Now, Edward Gaming, like I said, they have to play this very finesse cut type of team composition. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, play like a fencer, dance around the opponents, hit them with your range and going for those pokes. One poke, that's a Rakan. One poke, that's the Talia. But you have to realize that once you run out of disengage, you cannot continue to stay in the fights. The moment you use your Varus ultimate, the moment you use your time can eat, those are all your disengage tools consumed. And from that point, you cannot re-engage into the fight after that. Just get the Rakan, get whoever else who decides to donate their life to you, and stop chasing forward. They overstayed, they overextended in the fight, and the extent of the results in them, well, they might salvage this just yet.
Oh, teleports coming in from both the top laner and the ADC of EDG. Now they're looking to try and get the collapse onto Jay. He's stuck in the pit alone, and it's a consolation kill for EDG, but at least they find that Baron over onto Vici now. We'll have to see what they can do with this.
Oh, come on, EDG. If you're gonna let me admonish you, if you're gonna let me tell you off, at least let me do it all the way, right? You guys dug yourself into this pit. The opponents have a Baron now, and now you're a siege composition, or rather, you're a poke composition up against a Baron buff. Second Inferno, two oceans for you, but the two oceans don't matter because they're just gonna kill you in one burst, and the two Infernals, they don't exactly matter as well because they outskill you anyways.
And let's take a look back over onto this mid fight because this was the one that really solidified Vici's advantage coming into this game.
So this is what I meant. Your Varus ultimate has been used. Jarvan cannot EQ forward. Jarvan should never, ever, ever EQ forward over there. Report jungler ×9. Hashtag better jungler wins. That was where the cookie crumbled for Everett Gaming. They overextended into a position where they were no longer able to back away from the sustained damage of the Xayah, the sustained damage of the Talia. And the stolen ultimate from Ike's, that has got to be the deal maker for Vici Gaming in that fight.
I mean, that was painful. I'm not gonna lie. I was looking back at the fight and I was like, how did Jarvan die there? And when I saw that Luden's Echo prop from the Talia, my heart sank. That is a painful pill to swallow. Almost surviving that and being able to find the Xayah in such a clutch moment and ultimately getting taken down because of the Luden's Echo prop, that's difficult. We'll have to see if Vici now, because they've had really solid wave clear up until this point, if the Baron is going to be the thing that they needed to really try and break open this game.
Now this is really where the tables have turned. We saw earlier it was Every Gaming in this out position on the map, where they're playing on two lanes, where they were the ones being able to threaten multiple objectives on the map. Now it's Vici Gaming starting to be on offense. They have the Baron buff, and once again, Ornn Ultimate is available. And this is a rank 3, level 16.
Dishing down to the bottom side, Nice uses the Bell's Breath to dodge away from the Sleepy Trouble bubble. Vici gets some damage onto this bot lane turret, but overall not all that much.
Being able to buffer through the sleep duration of the Sleepy Trouble bubble as Ornn's with the Bell's Breath and the W was definitely one of his strongest points. And the more I think about it, the more I love the Ornn pick into the Zoe and the Jace that they have here. The one last pick Ornn is working wonders for Vici Gaming right now. They found the perfect ingredient.
It becomes more and more appealing the more you think about it. It's like, man, this Ornn actually is not bad. You want to criticize it, but you can't. You just gotta. It's like you're supposed to. It's like a bit of a guilty pleasure, right? You're like, oh man, I should be playing something else.
Pleasure? Oh no, this is a truffle. This is the truffle that goes on one perfect slice to perfect the dish that Vici Gaming has created. There's no criticism here. This is just the finest League of Legends that we're watching right now.
Truly, this is the late night cooking show with Jensen, right? Late night league cooking show with Jensen. You add a little bit of catfish, put in your slice of truffle on top, and guess what? Beautiful dish.
And then you have spaghetti Silas with all the noodles and the chains lashing about. Spaghetti can always be a very
Spaghetti.
messy affair, right? And I think that Silas kind
Yeah,
of matches the profile of spaghetti because he can always like steal the flavor of whatever else, absorb it into the juicy al
that's
dente
true.
noodles of it.
That's true. That's true. Very interesting take on things. We'll have to see if the al dente Silas is gonna be a little bit too much for EDG to chew on. As it seems like VG haven't been able to find all that much done with the Baron they picked up, and now Elder Drake spawning in about a minute and a half. 5 dragons over onto EDG. They could just give up the Baron, trade it for the Elder, and hopefully look to pick up the team fight that wins them the game.
Now the real question here is, I think the real controversial pick from VG's side is, why would you put rocks in your spaghetti? The Talia pick, or is it Sparrow? A more delicate form of
Okay.
cuisine. It's a different form of poutine as well. But I mean, the game's in a little bit of a lull right now, so we can just take some time to have some more in-depth analysis of the different flavors that both teams have at the moment. Now that the brand buff is no longer available, but I do have to feel that Gaming, they no longer have the ability to really threaten on multiple lanes. The Jace is 100 CS up on Ornn, but that's not the CS numbers you should be looking at. You should be looking at the levels. When a tank can match the carry in levels, this is where you know that EDG have done good. If the Jace is level 16 on level 14 right now, this is where the Jace can make hay on the map, but level 16 Ornn, no bueno, man. You're not gonna be able to make
Yeah.
any form of pressure on the side lane against this champion.
Yeah, it's really a no bueno situation. Right now, the only saving grace that EG have is that Scout still does significant damage to most of the players on the side of EG. But overall, the Jace really starting to lose relevance at this point. Only has 2 main targets he can go for. It's either gonna be on J or on Puff, and the rest of the team won't be able to. He won't be able to find much on coming in. Gino looking to go golden, trying to stay alive for a little bit longer, but almost gets taken down right away. Nice save coming in from Mako, brings him over into the backline, but Ignite taking down the Jace might just go burning away anyway. Double clicks Cataclysm onto both sides. 2 kills going over to Vici in this fight already. Scout looking to try and salvage the situation with his power stop, but won't be able to find anything. And Eyeboy this entire time just looking to try and DPS, but with so many threats in his way, he just wasn't able to find it.
TikTok time has run out for Every Gaming, and VG Gaming scaling competition has come online. Every Gaming, they had the opportunity, they had the windows to try to make something happen, but they couldn't find it. And now VG Gaming, they have a complete stranglehold of the game. They pick up the Elder, they know that Every Gaming is going to try to trade the Baron for it. Will they be able to stop them in
Oh, this
time?
is
They
bad.
can't finish it.
Jay gonna come in as well. Fosters the stored flash from Zoe Scout. Trying his best to carry this game, but just isn't able to do so. EDG made a decisive call to jump onto the Baron as soon as possible, but still, Vici Gaming with the Weaver's Claw were able to make their way in and stop this hiccup. And now with both massive buffs over to the end, let's take a look over on how Gino got caught in this fight and what ultimately led
Decisive,
to this.
decisive hero engagement on Rakan. He has to stop once, but that's not enough to save him. And once again, all the disengage is used, but their position is far too extended. The summon wasn't a mistake from themselves. It's just the opponents knowing that they have to fight there. They look at the position for Ever Gaming, and they are able to make multiple picks. And this is where everything now truly falls apart. Ever Gaming, they're in a bad situation. Now this is irredeemable for them. Elder Drake and Baron Nashor for VG Gaming, this should be the victory match for the underdogs.
And at this point, they finally get the gold lead they were looking for. Vici Gaming at a 2,000 gold advantage over EDG after such a stressful early game, having to deal with multiple attempts to deny the Talia, the ganks coming in overall, and the heavy pressure that we saw up at the top side. Vici Gaming finally were able to turn things around on its head. You can see at this point, odds are looking pretty good for Vici.
I mean, the success predictor, it gives me a 66.4%. I have to say that this is way more than that. I'm gonna hashtag do the math. Let my brain whirl for a second there. I'm gonna say that this is an 85, close to 90% win for Vichy Gaming. They really have to mess this up. They don't lose the team fight, and even if they catch out a single member, it has to be the Zaya for Vichy Gaming. Catching the Talia is not gonna be enough, and I feel that puts Vichy Gaming in such a strong position to win this game.
Weaver's Wall coming through already, misses out on the Varus ultimate, good damage coming in, iBoy almost gets taken down, he goes golden, save alive for a little bit longer, but the Cataclysm won't be able to save him, he comes right out just to die, and EDG sending them sent back into the base as Vici just walk right through the victory march as they look to take down the final turrets for this game. Vici want to equalize the score, there's nothing left that EDG can do, they try and prevent this, but the Nexus turrets go down, and now the Nexus, and at 9 and 15, Vici take the game off EDG.
Ever Gaming, they had the window, they missed the window, and Vici Gaming were not gonna let the chance slip up. They strike back and punish Ever Gaming for their mistakes to secure themselves a well-earned victory to tie the series up 1-1.